Hi everyone, good morning. Good morning to all the luminaries here. I couldn't remember all the names, so excuse me for that. Sorry for that. So I'm humbled, and I would like to thank everyone who has given me this opportunity. And I didn't know so many people would attend, or so many doctors would attend. As I said, I'm humbled to take this opportunity. And I thank Dr. Chitra to arrange this. And I hope the session will be useful for students, as well as whoever wants to take a look into how corporates work and how things happen in the corporate world. Rohi, can you mute everyone else, or is that only me who's hearing some noise? Okay, I think I'll jump into the presentation straight away. Okay, I hope everyone is able to see my screen.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So moving on, careers in corporate, and a little bit about me, right? As Dr. Chitra said, I was born and brought up in Thoothukudi. I did my computer science engineering from National Engineering College in the year of 2003. So I'm not very foreign or alien to any of you who are in this audience. I'm one of you guys, born very close and was in around Thoothukudi and Kovilpatti for most of my my schooling and college. And then in 2004, I joined Wipro Technologies as a software engineer, and I worked there till 2006. So that was my first introduction into the corporate world. And how I got into Wipro was after a long bit of it took some time for me to get into the corporate world. That's not new for anyone here probably, because we from the rural and second tier towns going into big cities, and we had to compete with people and students from cities who are well versed in these corporate things of corporate things. So it was a bit of challenge, but somehow I made it into Wipro Technologies, and from there I moved to IBM in the year of 2007, and that's when I moved to Bangalore, and I worked there for almost 8 years, and I worked at a different at different capacities, from software engineer to leading a team, and then into a advisory software engineer, which is equivalent to a managerial position, but on the technical side. So after having 10 or 12 years of experience, I decided, okay, I need to do something, get my master's done so that I can put myself in a better position for career growth after those many years of experience. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to do a master of MBA, and then I picked the Trinity Business School in Ireland. It was an one year MBA, so that was my first experience of what happens in the business world, or what happens in the economics or accounting. So it was all new for me. It took a bit of challenge to bridge the gap from the technical side to the business education. So it is doing this MBA, I think, gives me the control to relate with people doing business administration courses and economic courses and see where they are, what kind of exposure they will need as well as they lack in getting into the corporate world. And after doing my MBA, I joined as a senior engineer here in a Irish company, and now I'm continuing there as till today. So that's a little bit about me. And then we can jump into what is corporate and why it's not a bad word, right? As Dr. Mahindran said, or sorry, as Dr. Secretary said, today there is a bit of mistrust when we use the word corporate, right? It's these social media and meme creators that made this word as much as a bad word. It's mostly due to the distrust or mistrust from the general public towards corporates who are seen as their only motive is to make profit, right? They are seen as being exploiting the natural resources, exploiting everything that is given to them by the society, and their only motive is to make their profits, get their shareholders happy, and their owners happy. So it is this mistrust that has created this impression that corporates are bad. Having said that, yeah, I totally understand. It's not just corporates, I would say. Even any business person, or if, be it a family business, or even be a sundry corner grocery shop. If let's say if the grocery shop owner who's in the corner of our street, if he hoards a much wanted item from the market, and if he wants to make profit out of it, he is doing the same thing that the corporates are doing. So as we are in a business community, we don't know whether to call this a business tactic, because making profit or profiteering is the main motive of anyone doing business, and it's only in the recent past that it has become that purely profiteering cannot be a sustainable way for businesses to go on, right? At some point, businesses have to stop, take a step back, and look at how they will make all the stakeholders happy. By stakeholders, not just their shareholders or their owners, be it a corporate or be it a small business. How to make the entire stakeholders happy. We are at such a place or such a focal point in the flow of things to make this distinction right now. So we will come back to this point later, where we'll talk about how this particular area is providing new careers and new jobs in businesses. So we'll come to that later. So, sorry, thought there was a question. And then, what is a corporate? And so we have reached that. And why I picked this topic, right? So that's why we decided on this topic. As I said earlier, I am from Thoothukudi, and I've been in Thoothukudi and Koilpatti throughout my schooling and college. So what we lack from, what students from these areas lack is the exposure into how corporate world work. All we see is like these glass buildings in Mumbai or Chennai or Bangalore, and we don't know what happens inside it. And even though we have many people who have successfully made careers in these corporates, we don't get the chance to get this exposure from them and get to know what's happening inside. This has been a handicap for me as well, along with my other student friends who made it to who finished their studies, And this is the gap that I said earlier that I had to face when I first moved to cities to try to get into the corporates. So the way few assumptions, if you have if you are in a corporate world, there are few assumptions. So sure, there are some practices, there are some rituals that we'll never get to know, or that we lack that exposure being in this from this part of the world. So I thought, okay, why not give that back? Why not give a peek into what happens inside a corporate? How are they organized, right? By saying organization, we can delve into, okay, what could be that the students can try to get or try to get into. And to do that, they will have to, of course, skill themselves with the topic, with the subject, even more than what they learn in their curriculum. And knowledge from thank you. Sorry, there's a bit of noise. Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, this is an attempt to decipher what happens inside corporates with an aim to give insights into the organized sector and to bridge the gap for students from small towns into the big cities, right? And earlier is always better, right? You know, when you are in college, you have opportunities, you have very well-read professors at your disposal with whom you can work to gain these skills. Though even if they are not able to provide you with that knowledge, they can put you on the right track to talk to people who has this knowledge and skill to bridge the gap. So that's one of the angle where we wanted to present this to the students. And the other thing is, it's not just for job seekers, right? As I said, corporates need not always be these big companies, or at least the notion of this presentation is not just for people who want to enter into the corporate or big companies. It's even for people who have their own business, who have their family business to manage. Even those people might have joined the business administration courses with the aim of going back and leading those business into the next stage from what they have inherited from their fathers or grandfathers. So it's also for them to see how these big organize themselves and move on to the next stages of growth and how to develop their business, right? So even for the supposed to be business owners and business leaders, I think this will help them to see how organized or how formal the businesses can be or could be arranged, right? So this is I didn't know I was in mute. You're able to hear me, Rohit?
Well, it's audible. It's audible.
Okay, so just to recap quickly, so this is the background to why we chose this topic, and at this point as well, you know, earlier the better, as I said, for students, so that time to bridge the gap before they hit the market for business owners who want to lead their business in future. So this is something that I wanted to quickly cover, the 5 phases of growth of an organization. So this is actually a chart that when we started MBA, the first session or the first course that we got from is on this, right? How a small business. So this chart, as you can see, it is from. It's actually I sourced it from Harvard Business Review. It's a very famous article. It's part of a big book, but it has been condensed into a paper, which is often referenced in many MBA programs around the world. So what this chart does is it tries to map how a business or an organization starts from. From the left hand side, if you say it's small and young, and as we move towards the right and as we move up, the size of the organization increases, and it gains more age, or it gets matured as we move towards the right. So the size of the organization is in the y-axis, and the age of the organization in the right axis. So why I want to talk about this is we want to see, or we want to be in a same page, as in what I mean by corporate can be different from what you have in mind a corporate is, right? Or even the level of organization that we are going to talk in the future slides. We need to have a common understanding of what organizations we are talking about here, so that you can connect to what I'm talking in the future slides. So as I'm not going to spend much time in this chart, I'll just quickly go through what this chart means. I would encourage everyone to go and read this. I have the source at the bottom of the at the bottom there, so you can read it. It is free. Don't get hung up on that it is Harvard's source. Can we understand or not? It's a very easy read. So go ahead and read. So to go on quickly, right? So as any business, they will start from being small and being young. And at the first stage, so as you see, there is a bit of lines broken there, right? And then there is a growth phase, which is marked by a line like this. And then there is the up and down line, and then it goes. So each of that break is what that means is what kind of problems an organization would face when it comes to that particular age and size. Okay, so that's what this graph defines. So as when it was young and when it is small, it's mostly in stage 1, and it needs creativity, right? There will be a business owner who has this brilliant idea that he wants to make a product out of, and then he makes a product himself, and he goes to market. So this is something that we would all have seen, in so many cases. It could be even your father who started that business, who had that idea. He went to market, and you might have seen it closely that there was this person, one person who was involved in be it marketing, be it selling it, making the product, everything. So it is this one person who is driving the business, right? So as many researchers suggest, this way of working cannot go beyond a certain limit, right? When the size of the organization grows, it goes into the first revolution. So the phase of the business that is marked by the broken line is called revolution, whereas the phase of the business marked by a line going upward is called evolution. So the first revolution the organization meet is the leadership organization. So your father or whoever the owner of the business, he will be like controlling everything, and that he himself will become the problem for the organization to grow. So this has happened even in the famous cases like Apple. Right? It was first created by Steve Jobs, but then you might know that he was kicked out of Apple for a small period of time because he wanted Apple to be in the same growth phase where he just wanted to invent new things. But the business was suffering because of that motive. So the management bought him out and kicked him out. So that could happen for any business, be it an organized sector or be it an unorganized sector. And then the second phase starts. So where a business manager is put in, where the business manager takes control of how business happens. So he normalizes or he put in place few processes, how process should happen, what should you do. So even if you say you have to check in or sign into when you enter a business and to say how long you worked, all that is a business process, right? So it becomes a bit formalized in the second stage, right? And then when it grows beyond that, and when it hits the second stage, where it hits the problem of autonomy. Autonomy is this again the same. Whatever solutions you take for the earlier stage will become the problem in itself for the next stage. So this should be an eye opener for business owners, especially because it's like you're not going to see that for the first time. People have seen it, people have written it, and they've even suggested what you should do when you are in such programs. So as the organization and age grows, it is in the phase of coordination. It's around here, where coordination is where it takes the shape of a corporate. So a corporate roughly translates into a business that has business interest in different geographical locations, and it has to be, and there is a headquarters which rules or which decides all the thought process and all the decisions from the headquarters. And there are regional headquarters and regional offices where the actual business is done. So that is where it is generally called as a corporate, because the control center is somewhere remote, whereas the business happens in different geographical / business units, and they all those business units will have some very predefined goals that they need to achieve. So that is what roughly is called as a corporate. And there are better people here in the audience to know that corporate is not a legal term, right? It's a loosely termed. It came from corporations, which I think is still available in the West, but may not be in India, if I'm right. So there is no specific term for corporate. That's what I'm trying to get here, and that we should be in a level field to understand going forward. So, and if I want to apply this graph in the context, in the Indian context, most of our companies are in this phase where they are in stage 4 called coordination. They're mostly here, and we haven't had any such big organizations that fits into the phase 5 level. So phase 5 is if you want me to pick an example, phase 5 companies in the world, and as I said, we don't have many companies in the Indian context. So if you want me to pick an example for companies in phase 5 or stage 5, it is the 4 big companies that are Amazon, Google, Apple, and Facebook. Right. So one of the basic criteria, that's available in that paper. So if you can understand that more if you want to read the paper. So if to be in that stage 5, you will be a company where people are talking about breaking you, right? So there are now US politicians who want to break these big companies because they have become so big, so huge. They control the industry, they control the market they are in, and they have such a control that they are not letting new startups to come up in their region. So let's say if there is someone who want, and as you might have known this e-commerce industry, right? When Flipkart owners came from Amazon, they were earlier Amazon employees. They came to India, created Flipkart, but when they grew, it got the attention of Walmart and Amazon. So Amazon entered India, and then Walmart, because of their rivalry in US, they followed Amazon, and then Walmart had to do something in the e-commerce, and they bought Flipkart, right? So this is what the regulators are scared of, saying there cannot be big companies that have so much control that they kill new ideas. The basic of market capitalism, market economy, or capitalism is there has to be new players in the market who will redefine and who will disrupt the market such that the big companies will have to feel threatened that these new players as a competitor right now. But what happens is new players cannot compete with the giants like this. At some point, everyone is sellable, everyone has a price, and these corporates can pay their price. So it is those kind of companies who fits into this phase 5 region. So coming back to the Indian context, most of our corporates are in phase 4. Right. All right. So I think we are at a, I think we now understand what I mean by corporate when I. Sorry. So is there any questions that anyone has before I move on? Okay. No, I believe. So let's jump into the functions of a big organization or a corporate, right? So what I have here is I've tried to generalize as much as possible, and I've just picked the functions that are part of an organization that fits any business in any industry, right? Because of the wide range of audience we have here, I didn't want to restrict myself to any particular industry. And the chart that you see here, or the functions that you see here, should be there in, the terminologies or the name may be different, but these functions should be available or should be there in an organization at some stage or the other, right? So as you may have guessed by now, most of my experience is from the IT industry, from software industry. I may lean towards the IT industry, and now even without knowing, but I am consciously trying to stay away from it and try to paint a generalized picture so that everyone can connect to what I'm talking about. Because there may not be many IT people here or people who want to get into software industry at this point. So you'll have to excuse me if I go into that mind, but I will try my best to stay generalized, right? So what we are seeing here in this chart is so the layer on the top, right? So this is mostly the board of directors and CEOs and MDs. So these the top layer or the head is what runs the company, runs the organization, makes all the crucial decisions, and they are answerable to shareholders and so on. But we are not going to spend much time there, because this presentation is like to present it for the youngsters and for people who wants to get into the entry level jobs or entry level roles in corporate. So as a cliche, board of directors and CEOs will be very experienced people, and it's not for us. So And I'm also not going to go into this section, because this is where it gets a bit of it gets into the technical areas of the organization, right? So if you are if you want to consider an IT industry, people in this region will be like the software developers, software professionals. If you take a media embassy, this will be journalists. And if you take, let's say, um, you can understand, right? So those are technical people. And because the audience here are people in the business side, I mostly want to spend time with these functions because I believe this is our main areas of interest. We will still, to be precise, this research and strategy function is itself like we don't have to spend much time there, because people who are in this function will be fed from the other functions. So as you gain more experience, as you gain more insights in your own industry, you only then you can move into the research or strategical areas. So we will still see what you might learn in your curriculum that's still being used in this function, but we'll not delve into too much details for this particular function. Right. Having said that, we'll go into each one of these blocks and see what these functions do. Right. So there might be few details that I'll be talking about when it comes to individual functions, but mostly I want to cover these areas for each of these functions. One, what do these functions do? Right? What are the what are the different roles? What are the different areas that is comprised into? Let's say if it is marketing, what do they do? What all they manage for that particular organization? And we'll see some tools that are used inside these organizations, right? The idea of bringing these tools, these are all softwares again, and I am not saying the term software from an IT perspective. I am saying these tools from a perspective that if you have knowledge or skills in these tools, and if you put it that in your resume that I have done a course in this particular software, as a user, you don't have to be on the other side of development, which is where the IT professionals will come into picture. So as a user, if you have attended courses in these tools, and if you have that in your resume, that will add immense value to your resume, right? So you know that you pick your area of interest, you pick the tools that are used today in the field, in the industry, and if you get yourself skilled in that particular tool, you will do yourself a great good to make into the corporate world. And that's where I said your teachers and your lecturers can come and help, right? I may say some tool which I am not sure even available. The trainings and courses are available, but as you know, that there are tutorials for almost anything that you want to learn in YouTube and in the internet. So even if you learn few terminologies from this tool, it's going to help you when it comes to facing interviews or how you can approach. You just throw in these terms, right? You will show yourself, you're selling yourself that I know these terms that you are using in your industry, in your day-to-day work. That will add great value to while you are selling yourself to the organization. So, and the fourth point that I would want everyone to take is like I want to touch upon some of the trending areas in each of these organizations, right? So the topics and the areas that are trending today is what will be the norm when when students of this year will reach the market. So yeah, I would say you have to pick these trending areas, and this is where you will have to probably learn, and this is where probably your curriculum will have to lead you into. So I have tried to mark these areas with this hash mark, right? There will be a lot of acronyms, but we will jump into it and see how it goes, right? So jumping on, the first section I want to cover is marketing, right? And why marketing as the first layer. I thought it will be a bit easy if we go through the organizations in the same order of how the process flows inside the organization, right? How, let's say, if you are selling a product, if you are selling a car, what's the process? What's the flow of process? Which department gets the first hook from a customer? How the customer is passed between different functions and makes the sale or makes the business. So I thought if organize the presentation in such a flow that it will be easy for you to understand, okay, where we are inside this glass building that you are thinking of, right? So that's why I picked marketing as it is easy for everyone to connect to what could be marketing, right? And it's a very used term. And this cone, this picture that you see here is called this is the most used picture. If you go into any marketing course or subject, they will start with this cone, right? As without going too much into that, so what this funnel means is, like, the top layer is very wide, where that represents the market, and the inside that market, or in that wide arena, there will be people who are interested in the products or in the service that you're offering, right? So the marketing department will have to handle this wide arena, get those people who are interested or who want to do business with you, narrow that's the main objective of marketing teams. So, and why you see Twitter and YouTube and Facebook today, right? On the top corner, as you might probably know, it's not any big secret. Today's business, or the first point of contact for businesses to reach to their prospective customers, is through social media, right? If you don't have a presence in social media, you are very lagging at this point, because that is where the bulk of your customers are. That is the platform where you can connect to your customer easily and quickly and more efficiently, right? So the efficiency part is what the social media brings into in today's businesses. Earlier, if you take even a few years back, your website was your first level of contact with the customer, right? That was the phase for businesses even few years back, but now that has been overtaken by the social media. And as you might know today, no one is taking a call to the let's say, if you want a customer service or if you want any maintenance requests, no one is calling any customer care numbers today. Everyone is doing a hashtag of the particular business, and they are contacting the business now, because it's the easy way for customer to reach business. So, having talked about how easy and useful social media is, Now we'll come into business, right? So for business, it was a big challenge. At least, in India, we have, the big businesses are very new. They are fresh. They have easily managed to adopt these new tools as and when they come into picture. But the big businesses, or the old businesses especially, they always struggle to get good grasp of the new technologies, right? Which you can easily identify today. So I'm sure everyone would agree that it is easy to get a service or get a request done with an ICICI bank when compared to getting the same done with the SBI, right? Because State Bank of India, with its legacy systems and legacy processes, will always find it difficult to adjust to this new thing in the market. Or so, digital marketing is the new area that is. I wouldn't say it's new anymore, right? It's in businesses everywhere. And why I call it AKA digital is that term digital is something that is used predominantly in the West. So in Ireland, so when I say I picked SBI, for the case in the Indian context, right? But when you come to West, you'll be surprised, how aged or how old businesses are and how they are trying to bridge that gap, right? You would be surprised that you will not get an SMS from a Western bank as easily as you are getting in ICICI or even SBI for that matter. So that's a big background to it, but we'll not go into all that. So digital marketing is the first level of the first phase of any business to their customers today, and they are so careful of how they are portrayed in social media, right? Probably you may know today that the power of social media is such that today we saw news that Hindustan Lever is dropping the term fair from Fair and Lovely. You ask anyone, how will that be if you have to drop Fair and Lovely cream, especially 90s kids? They think that you have to be white to be fair, and as you know, that has connection to this Black Lives Matter that is going across the world at this time. And why businesses want to be seen in the good light is because they don't want to offend people. They don't want customers to think that they have something to do with racism. So this is it is not just an international problem. It's every business problem. So such is the power of social media that every business is investing a lot into digital marketing nowadays. And I don't mean that you should be knowing how to handle Twitter, how to handle YouTube, how to handle Facebook, because I know every one of you is a great expert in that now, but that is not what the businesses want. There are tools that are used for this digital marketing. They call it digital in the Western world, simply digital, because it is a platform that connects to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube of that particular business. And earlier it was just one phone call, right? And that will be a person attending the phone call. But now a customer can reach you through any of these means. And there has to be a platform that collates all this from different streams and get it into the right people. So it is in this layer where there are new jobs that are growing tremendously. So I'm sure that I myself is a bit old to digital marketing because I don't use Twitter. I don't have Twitter. I have Facebook, which I haven't touched after 2012. So, okay, I see someone painting all over. So moving on, right? I don't want to get hung up because we can talk about digital marketing on its own for the full hour. And the next layer. So this is where the social media is where the first layer or phase of the business. And once you see a prospective buyer, now what they do is they bombard this uh, person, this customer who said, I want to buy a car, right? You search that in Google, and within 24 hours and the next day you open any page, any web page, you will see materials, advertisements of car, whatever car, be it Ford or Toyota. You will see your page inundated with advertisements from whatever you searched, right? So here it says a blog. So blog is something that is written by some experts, who in that particular field. Let's say if it is if you're a car business, you'll probably get someone who's well versed in, or who's considered as an authority in your business, to ask them to write a piece, and you will send this review to anyone who searched for your car or your business in Google the day before, right? So that you start to paint a picture like, okay, you have to make the business with us because see, this great person is saying this. So uh, that's this layer where you whoever just showed interest in the first layer is made a more prospective buyer in the second layer by pushing more resources into it. So all these were not available or were not possible earlier, right? If you see a salesperson in a car showroom is what how you can get more about a car that you want to buy earlier. But now customers do their research even before they come to your shop. So you have to you have to engage your customers earlier. Otherwise, you may be a day late, but then you might be late. You might lose your business, right? So that's the level of competition we have in today's world. So this layer is that, and then your website. So sorry, Rohit, can you put? Thank you. So websites is, of course, where you really make the business, right? And why I want to talk about search engine optimization is this. It is very well known that, let's say you are searching for, I want a beauty product in Google, right? Your business has to be in the first page of the Google search page. If you are in the second page, just forget it. How many of us have gone to the next page of a Google search to find whether you are interested in that particular business, right? It has to be in the first page. And then it got shortened that your business should be on within the first 3-4 links of the Google search if you have any real chance of making a business with that particular customer, right? And so what this is about, what search engine optimization is about, is how you will get your website picked by Google within the first 2-3 ranks. And Google provides a framework. Google provides resources how you have to design your website, what words you should use, how you should use, whether you should choose pictures or videos. So Google has a big framework with which, if you go through that, if you design your website with those ideas and framework, you will get your business listed in the top few. And I think that says it right. Every business want to be within the first 2-3, right? And any business website is growing, is evolving as days progress. And so there is a tremendous opportunities here. How you will design a website. You need not be a website developer, but you will be the business administrators and the people from economic background. will be saying, okay, how our website should be designed, what product should be listed where, so that it gets the required attention. So search engine optimization is something that's always there, right? The digital marketing has taken over this search engine optimization, but it is still there because it's through these websites most of the business is done today. And then Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is something that's widely used in marketing, in the marketing field today. So what this means, or what this Google Analytics does, is it provides you with very useful information of who are the users who visited your web page from Google, right? Of course, what were their age profile, what kind of demography they're from, what geography they are from, whether are they a parent or not, what age are they, what are you, a male or a female. So all this information are used by businesses today. You will be like, is it really true, and is this what the data that people are talking about today, right? So if you have heard that these social media are stealing your data or stealing your information, this is what they do with it. Now they wouldn't know that it was me, it was Walesa who visited your page, but they will generalize it, saying I am a 40-year-old male from Ireland looking to buy your particular business or interested in your business. So this Google Analytics is kind of a treasure for businesses, because they get to know who their target audience are, how they should target those audiences, right? So if you take these inputs, and if you design your marketing with these inputs, you are better served, of course, to promote yourself and make good use of. So these are some of, and as to step back, these are some of the roles, or some of the things that the marketing department of any business would do. And these are some of the trending or the most used terminologies and most used steps that are in action in the field today. And moving on, right? This is handle public relations. So I think it's a cliche. What anyone would think of a business is the sole responsibility of their marketing team, right? And today, business in society is something that is becoming a very big thing in the West or the developed markets. I'm not sure whether we have these courses in our curriculum today, but if not, I would request authorities here to look up for this topic. What is business in society? And I would try to incorporate it into our curriculum. So to talk a bit more into this highly trending topic, right? That's why I have that hashtag CS, hashtag against this topic. Because let me define the problem, or let me define the problem in hand, so that you can understand the issue better. Right? It's mostly not in it doesn't apply in the Indian context as of today, because the Indian buyer or Indian buyer is seen as like, it's like too much. Rohi, can you mute everyone? Thank you. So typically, an Indian buyer is like, what they value is the value that a product provides, right? We always give, can you reduce the price, increase if it is a car, can you increase the mileage? Can you give me more features at a reduced price, right? So across the world, Indian buyer is considered a very, very tricky buyer to sell. There has been loads of literature that is written on Indian buyer. You'll be surprised how much is written on our buying behavior in the international arena, because we Indians are considered as one of the very tricky seller or a tricky buyer. So that, as coming back to the CSR, we don't see that in the Indian context now, but in the West, uh, people are more conscious about what they buy, right? This is being fed from different topics that are ranging in now. Environmental degradation, global warming, sustainability, and even fair, being fair. These are highly moral topics as of today, but they are having an impact how a buyer or a seller would behave. You will be surprised that to know that there was a big controversy that broke in the developed world when they got to know that the coffee farmers in Africa are not paid fairly, or not paid enough for whatever they are being sourced from. So this became a hot topic, such that there is an organization called Fair Trade. You can look up for it. It's like an organization that, like we have for organic products today. If you have that symbol, you trust that that product is organic. Similarly, there is something called Fair Trade. So this Fair Trade organization, what they do is, like, they make sure the entire supply chain of the product is treated fairly. Is treated fairly. So this coffee is one of an example where it really had an impact, and every coffee producer, coffee seller had to get this tag or brand on their names, because otherwise people were not ready to spend on these products where they are. So why I bring up this is it's happening across the developed markets today. So it will reach India soon, right? So this will be an area of high growth in the future. We are seeing it in a different context right now. We don't we have seen issues with Pepsi trying to source Tamirabarani water, and all the issues regarding it. So all the businesses don't want to be on the wrong side. They want to be painted in the right side, so that they don't alienate their buyers. So we are seeing issues, but soon there will be solutions, or their businesses will react for these issues, and how they will react is what we study in business and society in EA here. To an extent, we address this in the Indian context with CSR, right? Corporate social responsibility. So corporate social responsibility is something that says that businesses that have 100 crore turnover over 3 years have to spend so much of their profit on stakeholders, on people around their factories, or where they do business, or some welfare measures, right? So CSR is not new. It has been in the West for a long time, but there is a critical difference. CSR has been made into a law for the first time in India. It's never a law or a legal requirement for any businesses in the world, but it is only in India. So the entire world is looking up to India, saying how it works if you make it a law, right? So in the developed world, CSR, our stakeholder engagement and stakeholder happiness, satisfaction is mostly an organic thing that comes from within business, so that people come and buy their product. But rather, it's only in India where we have made it a law, made it a must for all businesses who fits the requirement. So these are things that are happening, that's going to happen in the near future. When you say when businesses are spending on it, they will have people they will need people to handle it. They will need people to take this to fruitful result for business as well as the stakeholders. So these are some of the topics that we should be learning and reading about, so that we have, when these convert into a job or high growth area, we are right there to grab it. Sorry. So that's all I wanted to talk about the marketing department, or the marketing functionality for a business, right? Moving on. So we have seen the first phase with which businesses reach out to their clients. And then obviously it goes into the sales, right? So I don't have much to say about sales, because this is not something we can learn. You have to be a salesperson by birth. You may be able to teach few tricks and tools for a salesperson, but you have to got it in yourself to be a salesperson. Having said that, I don't mean like you cannot learn or you cannot skill yourself in sales. I'm sure you'll have some papers. You'll have some subjects in your curriculum for sales. But I just want to touch upon what's a general, a common knowledge in the corporate world when it comes to sales, right? It is highly domain specific, right? So if you are a salesperson in a car industry, you are throughout your career, you will be jumping between car manufacturers and car sellers, and you may go up and down the value chain, but you will be in the car industry forever, right? So that's why I mean by highly domain specific. So if you are a banker and if you are in the sales department of a bank, you will move between banks, you will move between cooperative societies, you will move between maybe insurance, at some point. So it's like you need to know the industry, you need to know the market to be able to sell particular products. So that's what I mean by highly domain specific, right? So the next I want to talk about is customer relationship management software. So sales department, in organizations or in formal businesses, they use a number of tools. So if you want to go in the sales line, try to look up for some of trainings, try to attend trainings or courses in these different products that I've listed here. These are all highly used customer relationship management softwares, which are used, in the field as of now. Just want to pick few. Salesforce is something that probably everyone would have heard of, and Zoho is an Indian sales software, right? So it is not just sales. We will talk about it later as well, but this is highly used in the sales department. So if you can develop skills in any of these softwares, it will be of great use to yourself, if you want to make a career in sales, right? And again, as I said, all these softwares try to integrate all your flows. So you will see that a marketing person will also have to know CRM, because that's where the first entry of about a customer gets into the system. And a salesperson will come and pick that particular clue, reach out to the person or a business, and try to develop him into a prospective buyer. So that's how it works. And it is these softwares that connect all the departments or functions in the organization. So you learn any of this, you are doing yourself a great good. So that is all I think I had with sales, right? So as I said, there's nothing much I can suggest to learn when it comes to sales, but still, though the core competence that you need to do sales, something has to be in you, but you can still surround yourselves with the knowledge of different tools and ideas when it comes to sales. It can help you get into the sales roles if you want. And then operations, right? So operations is a very vague term, right? They cover a huge lot uh, of of an organization. So you might have heard chief or operations officer and all that. They are kind of, after CEO, that may not be any CEO, C-suite people, but there will be a COO, because any operations is what the backbone of a business is, right? So it goes like the marketing, the phase of the business, gets the customer into your domain, into your business. The sales will go on, sell your product, make the customer educated, and make the sell, right? So the role of sales department will end when the customer pays for the product, or customer agrees to pay, even sometimes, right? So how a business provide their product or deliver their product to the customer is organized or is taken care by the operations function. So be it a software, or be it a card, be it a beauty product or anything, you need to deliver it in a timely manner, in a good way, because if delivery doesn't happen, as you know, need not say anything more than that. So this is the client facing side of operations. So delivering the product to customers is the critical function of an operations department. And then they also take care of the inventory management, right? This inventory management is something that we all would have heard of, or we may have papers and subjects that you'll be going through. And along with it, tagging along is the supply chain, right? So all this comes under the operations function of an organization. And again, those brand names that you see to the right of it is again the same kind of softwares that we saw earlier. These are some of inventory management specific and supply chain specific softwares that are used in the field as of today. And there are very good courses for SAP and Sage. In India, as of I know, there may be others as well in the market. So look up for this if you want to be if you want to be in the inventory management or the supply chain management of the business. Apart from reading your regular books and subjects, you can develop your skills on these softwares as an add-on, as a value add to get into a good job. And then offices administration. So this is something that offices administration is part of operations again. As I said earlier, a corporate might have like hundreds of offices, right? So who will take care of these offices? Who runs these offices? The office will need a canteen, will need food, water, will need transportation. So these offices administration is something every business involves, and that's a huge opportunity in organizations in this particular area. And this is something that we don't get to hear very often. When you are in a city, you can easily see that there is a whole ecosystem around an office. Be it any business, right? There is an ecosystem, and there is huge opportunities to get into the corporate layer in this particular area. But we may not be able to see it when we don't see how offices work. So office administration is something I'd say is an easy entry level for people to get into organizations. And as I said, you can grow up the ladder, even getting into this particular area. But it is highly invisible to people who are not seeing those corporate offices in action. Right, so that's operations. So we have seen in the life cycle of how a buyer will move towards buying it, right? So operations, when you deliver the product, or even before that, you will need the money paid into your organization, right? So that's where we are going next. That's the finance department. So finance department people are generally called money people, right? So they handle the money in any context, right? Be it money that has to come in, or be it an expenditure for an organization, right? So they are the people who control money, and their overarching purpose is to make sure there is return on investment, there is return on capital, and in fact, even capital management, right? So if you want to buy anything for your business, it is the finance people who will be the last person to hand over the money to you. So they have this huge responsibility of making returns and making sure the capital that you invest on a business makes returns, right? So they are colloquially called as money people, right? Um, and whoever wants to get into the finance business, I think it's needless to say they have to be good with numbers, right? They should be good in mathematics. Okay, but that it often gets lost when I say good in numbers, right? When we say good in numbers, our people understand that you should be able to multiply 368 into 450 out of your mind. No, that is not what I mean by being good with numbers, right? That is something a calculator can do. But what I mean by being good with numbers is like, if you see a number, you have to be able to see what that number says, right? If it's a ratio, you know, in accounting, you might be learning a lot about a lot of ratios that are involved in money in business. So what those ratios mean, and if you want to improve a particular ratio, what should you look at? So what should you fix? What should you? That's what I mean by being good with numbers. So you have to be a number person, a maths person if you have to be in finance. And then, so moving on, right? I want to go into a bit of smaller areas within the financial world. Maybe a CFO is responsible for all the returns and whether all the money is getting accounted and all that. But within that, there are smaller functions or smaller teams where they are mostly manned by entry level people who are fresh to the finance department. That is, one of them is called receivables, right? So what is receivable? Receivable is purely an accounting term. That what that means is that what the money that has to come in from the sales that you are making, right? This may not exactly apply if you are a direct to customer business, like, and if you are in retail or anyone, your customer pays you right before you deliver the product. But if you are a business to business provider, right, you will have to have credit facility for your business, because usually it's like 90 days, right? So when there is a credit period, it entails that there has to be someone who has to go behind these businesses and make sure that the money is paid, right? So that's what those roles are called, receivables, and it's a real role inside the financial department. And because, as I said, it's a of course, I'm simplifying it, right? There might be technicalities when you go into a specific business, but at a very high level, that's what a receivable representative would do. He will have to go behind the people whom you made business with and make sure they pay in right time, right? And why I want to highlight is because it's one of entry-level job, or considered as entry-level job. Of course, you can grow into a higher responsibility role from that, but that is something that to renew your AMC. That falls within the renewals department. So there is someone who is sitting behind the screen and making the salespeople to call you, sell the AMC, right? So there are jobs in this area as well, which typically is like for freshers from schools and colleges, right? And then regulatory, right? This is it's obvious that finance department will have to deal with the regulatory things of accounting and all that. So if you had noticed, I didn't have accounting in one of my functions because accounting is usually considered as a one-off activity for a financial year. So usually businesses or big organizations don't keep an accounting department per se, right? The softwares and the CRMs that we talked about earlier, they mostly do all the requirements that are required for the accounting or for the regulatory purposes. That doesn't mean like you don't. There is no roles for accountants or there are no jobs for accountants, but accounting is mostly outsourced, right? There are accounting firms who specialize in accounting, and they provide accounting as a service to organizations. So most of the organizations just take that service so that you don't have to pay someone throughout the year, right? So it's as simple as that. So they take this service from this accounting firms. So some of the accounting firms, if you want me to remember straight off my head, the big four, right? The big four is a Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, and this always sticks me. Okay, so there is another big accounting firm that is involved. So you would be surprised that these four firms handle 75% of the accounting requirements for public companies across the world, not across any specific geography, across the world. It is these four companies that provide the accounting service. So if you are an accounts person, you should look for these four names. And if I remember the fourth brand, I will probably say it. So if you're an accounts person, if you want to make a career in accounting, these are the firms that you should look out for. I'm sure there would be some Indian players in this space as well, but these are some of the well-known names in the accounting space. So that's about regulatory, right, which is of a critical function of a finance department. And then again, ERP tools generally used by the finance team is, again, if you see that the names are kind of repeating across, because these softwares try to integrate the entire business flow. And why I use ERP? ERP is Enterprise Relationship Program, right? So CRM, customer relationship management, ERPs are all like, they mean the same, but different terms being used in the industry. So and of this, I'm sure you would have heard of Tally, right? It's Indian version of then of course it's within in the Indian context that it is being used, but it is I myself have seen being used in many organizations. So and I've heard that there are courses and study materials that are available for Tally. So if you can skill yourself with that, that should really help. And if you go into any big organizations, right, these two are some of the most used, Sage and Microsoft. So I use Microsoft, but actually the real name is 365 Dynamics. That's one of the most used ERP tools in the field as of now. All right, moving on. So with this, we complete the sales process flow, right? From marketing to sales to operations and then to finance. So with that, you finish this. You finish a sell. These are the departments that are mostly involved in selling a product, right? And then comes the human resources, right? Which is the default, or which is always there, irrespective of what you sell, uh, uh, or what kind of an organization you are. So let's see what they do, right? So today, human resources is as I said, people, right? At first, it might sound strange. People. Can I say it like that? But you'll be surprised. In corporate world, there is a term called person people, or whether he's a people person. What that means is being good at your job is one thing, but being part of a team and playing along and being good to your team and people around is another thing, right? So there is a clear distinction, and there is a term that is often used in the corporate side, that he's a people person. So these people person, what they mean, like they go well, they are a good mingler, they are a good leader, they are a good team member. So that's what they mean by it. And as you might have guessed by now, if you want a career in human resources, you have to be a people person, right? Your main role is to make sure your staff, your team members are engaged, they are well taken care of, and so on. So you have to be a people person if you need to be in human resources, right? And the most common function or role that human resources play is in the recruitment process and coordination, right? I don't mean like human resources make the decision of whether to recruit someone or not, but there is a huge amount of coordination that's involved, right? It is the technical people, or by technical people, I mean even functional, even finance is a technicality, right? Marketing is a technicality. And mostly the business they are in, they will have their own technical people. They make the decision whether the final call, whether you will get into the organization or not. But human resource people will be the one who will be involved in being in touch with the interviewee or the candidate, making sure the interviews take place as expected. And that piece of coordination is done by human resources team, right? And another big responsibility is skill development. So this is mostly with the professional organizations, but I believe it has to be at some level. There has to be in every organization that you need to develop skills for your staff, for your people, for the staff in your organization. So arranging trainings, and getting them to arrange courses and all that is mostly the responsibility of human resources. And this is one of a highly specialized area within the human resources department, because businesses are changing tremendously nowadays, right? And you need to keep up with new skills, and you need to keep on training your people. So that is one of a big responsibility for human resource. And the next one is again a tricky area, and that is it's a highly trending nowadays. Is it's not trending, right? It's there it's there in businesses that are spread across geography. Like let's take for example um, you know IT service, IT name like TCS or Wipro, right? Uh, these businesses have offices across India, right? And they have employees from different parts of India. So when you go out and when you interact with people from different states, you will realize how different we are, even though we are all ourselves Indians. How culture different, how someone perceives anything, the tone you speak and how everyone will interpret is all different when they are from different backgrounds. So the diversity that is required uh, for Indian businesses, and especially when it comes to international, you need not even ask. There will be employees from different countries, and
கரெக்டா ஒண்ணுக்கு வந்துட்டல சார்ஜ் போட்டுரும்.
their expectations might be different and all that.
என்னல இது எப்படில போறது நான் அப்போ
என்னது இப்படி வச்சிருக்கேன் இந்த இருக்கல இப்படி.
I'm hearing some beautiful Toothukudi speech, and they love it when I hear Yala and all. So that's nice. Thanks for that. Coming back, right? So diversity is becoming a big thing. Now businesses. This again ties back to the what do you say? Yeah, the PR, the public relations, and the image the businesses want to portray of themselves. Right? It ties back to that. So every business today wants to be seen as someone who encourages diversity in their workforce. So in the Indian context, we see that we need people from many states. We need people from different social backgrounds and all that. If it is an international organization, they go even further. They want diversity.
Hello. Hello. Madam.
The responsibility of this function, right? So that's why it is not for any entry level job. So you have to be an expert in this area. So I think we don't have to spend much time in this. And then the next one, again, as I said, the last one on the right hand side is purely business specific, right? And we don't have, and it's out of scope for this talk. If it is, let's say, if it is a computer science department, probably I can talk about the roles and what's happening inside the rightmost function. But because our scope is to stop with the functional roles, with the business functions, I think we will not go any further than that. So that's about it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Good that we had every resources available for most of the talks. Sorry about the last bit. And that's all I had. Thanks very much. And if there are any questions, I can take. If there are any questions, okay.
Thank you very much, Walesa Francis, for your thought-provoking address. Dear attendees, do you have any questions? If you want to raise any question, please unmute your microphones and raise your question.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Go ahead.
So, like we say, flag follows trade. That's what these corporates, they could lobby itself, no? So, what's your opinion about that? That's what people are fearing about corporates.
Yeah, lobby is there, right? It's some whether it is good or bad. It's an ethical question, right? The lobbies do good as well, but if you are if you are influenced by what you see in movies, I'm sure you will have bad opinion on lobbyists. But they play a crucial role in bridging the gap between regulatory and business, right? There have been instances where lobbyists have played a good role as well. For instance, as you know, the market is always ahead of the regulatory framework, right? For example, just to explain here, we know what happened with VV Minerals, right? What we saw outside was that there was some business that was taking sand from our beaches and going into a green gate in Thuthukudi Tiruchendur Road, but we didn't know what they were doing. But they had the information and the know-how that those sand had thorium in it, and they were exporting it. So it is always the case that industry and the market is always ahead of regulators, right? And now it is always the government comes later to say, okay, I'm going to regulate this particular business. But who are the subject matter experts, right? Who knows this business? Who knows which is good for India as a whole and what's good for that particular industry at its infancy? So it is these people who play the role of getting the business into a regulated business, right? So that is the main role of lobbyists, those who play between the industry and the government or regulatory authority. Of course, you know, I'm not saying they are all angels. They also, you know, it's only that they lean towards business, like that's the truth about it. They want business to take advantage or be the only winner, which is bad. So if it happens, they are needed. Only that they have to play an ethical role such that all the stakeholders get benefited out of businesses or industries.
So good evening, Walesa.
Good evening.
So I'm Kavita Lunchtime. Sorry. So எனக்கு ஒரு டவுட். எல்லாரும் அந்த கார்ப்பரேட் அந்த வேர்டை கேட்டாலே பயம் வருது. ஏன் அந்த பயம் கார்ப்பரேட் அப்படின்னு கேட்டாலே ஒரு பயம் இருக்கு. இட் இஸ் நெசசரி, அந்த பயம் நமக்கு தேவையா?
Yeah, I think that's how I started with my presentation. That corporate is not a bad word, right? It is the mistrust that because they are not open, because they are not transparent what they do. People generally develop this mistrust towards organized business, that something untoward is happening behind the glass doors. That's the impression people have, and that's how that gap or mistrust develops. And as I said earlier, you know, this need not be just with the organized sector, right? It can even be with small businesses, because a business main motive is to profit or make their particular stakeholders happy, whereas they operate in a bigger environment like society, right? So you need to balance between both these, and when the balance is missed, that's when this mistrust develops. So it should not be a bad word, right? They are the engines of growth. Corporates are the engines of growth. We need more organized sector because that's what if every, all the information can be tracked. That's what provides the government with the critical data that they need to govern. But India is not there. We are not there yet, where most of our workforce is in an unorganized sector. But it has to become organized if we have to go down the growth ladder, or if you want to grow into a developed economy.
Thank you, Mr. Walesa Francis. Any other questions, attendees?